if you're an individual wanting to start what you think is an agency, where actually you want to do the work and you want to become a specialist, be a consultant.
I didn't feel like I was employable, and I think a lot of business owners feel like that.
So by the time I kind of got to 17, people were getting chucked into a room to learn how to apply for uni. I was the only one that wasn't in that room, sat in the other room and started a company. Drinking green tea at the time, called the company Green Tea Productions, wanted to start making content, videography and photography and that kind of stuff.
Roughly how many clients have you worked with as an agency over the years?
520.
Awesome. Specifically, that's awesome.
I grew by people sharing my name, not the business's name. There's a huge difference between someone that's paying you £3,000 a month to five-figure amounts. Try and do something that's a little bit artistic and a little bit freeing that you can get that dopamine from, because I think you can fall into the trap of trying to find dopamine from bad places.
Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've everything up.
Olly, seen you mention online that you don't like to resonate with the term entrepreneur.
That is very true. Yes, I prefer business owner. Not that I'm petty or picky about it, but I just, the phrase entrepreneur, I think for me has become a little bit, I don't know, I think it's thrown around a bit too much for me. And I would say that I've only ever owned businesses. I've never had a job, which is hilarious. But for me, business owner is a bit more representative of what I would probably class myself as. But you could say the word entrepreneur, but I don't know, it turns into one of those online fad things for me that looks too much.
Yeah, what does it make you feel, entrepreneur?
I think that, like, for me, business owner is kind of proof in the pudding. I think it's important to talk about stuff you actually know and you've done and you've achieved. And I think that's the one thing I don't like about the online world. For example, your content, I love your content because I know you've done everything you talk about, and I think that's why people resonate with you. And hopefully that's why they resonate with me. But I like to prove that what I'm talking about is actually what I know. And I think sometimes when it comes to entrepreneur, I don't know, you can say you're an entrepreneur quite easily. There's very low barrier to entries, which are great, but and that's kind of how I've started as well. But yeah, it's probably one of those things that I think business owner is a better representation of me.
Fair enough. Remind me what to just wrestle this.
No, I was say you're going to definitely wrestle that.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I agree, right? Entrepreneur is one of those terms that many people like to label themselves as to give them somewhat of an ego trip, you know.
Exactly.
Start the agency, and within a couple of months, that tagline of founder, CEO, it's already there on the LinkedIn page.
Sure. I think founder is a great term. You'll definitely have to do something about that.
Yeah, maybe regular that. That'll do us. That's fine.
Yeah, sweet. I think founder and business owner are great ways to represent, you know, me and I think a lot of people. Like, you know, I founded a business in 2013 that still exists today. Like that's kind of me. I think entrepreneur just makes that sort of phrase, and I think where people represent that is, or what they connect with that is very much someone who's just kind of not really doing much, but they're achieving lots of things or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think I said it on a podcast a couple of years ago and a few times since. So it's probably just one of those things. There's an insecurity in me in some ways.
No doubt, man. But you started your agency, you said 2013.
Yeah, man. I was 17. Yeah, so I was at school. I knew from a really early age. I don't know if you remember the London riots, the student riots. My sister she's a couple of years older than me, and from that moment on, when that sort of happened, obviously a really terrible time, but generally I was like, was no point going to university at that stage. Financially, I just thought didn't make much sense. I didn't want to waste my time. So by the time I kind of got to 17, as it was at college, people were getting chucked into a room to learn how to apply for uni. It's like a 3-hour session. I was the only one that wasn't in that room, sat in the other room and started a company. Was drinking green tea at the time, called the company Green Tea Productions, wanted to start making content and videography and photography and that kind of stuff. And also social was kind of starting. Instagram was 2-3 years old. I joined Instagram at that point because it was originally a photography app. So I jumped on the platform and was kind of like, already taking terrible photos with the Valencia filter over it. And like for me, it was just like, I'm 17. The plan, and this is still the plan, was do this to your 30 and you're still young as fuck and you can do something else. So I've got like 18 months left, and then if I screw it up by that point, I'm still 30 and I can go and do another career. So that was literally the plan I had. And starting an agency was very much like I tried to actually build team quite quickly. So I started on the content side, train myself as a photographer, videographer, very quickly kind of absorbed that knowledge and really put it to practice. Was doing like 3 shoots a day, running around London and having actually really good time. And then I started to build a team. So the first person I brought on was an editor because I knew that post-production would take time. And then we started doing the social stuff in sort of 2015, 2016. So I brought someone in for that. So, I think a lot of agencies started one person, which is cool. And that's where I started too. But I did think like, if I'd want to be just myself, don't call myself an agency, actually just call myself a consultant, and I'll specialize much more. But I didn't want to do that. So it was like, build an agency, brand that, be the brand, kind of connect to myself with that. And then, from kind of 2013 to 2017 was like my uni years, but for myself. So just like learning as much as I could. By that point, we were doing the content side, we were doing the organic side, and we started to do the paid side a little bit as well. That was at a small scale. That was when Facebook ads wasn't even called Facebook ads. I can't remember what the platform was called, but the back end literally didn't say Facebook ads. I think it was like Data Studio or something, like whatever it was called. It was something like that. Yeah, like back in the day, proper back in the day, where you could really target people as well, which is great. And then spent a couple of years just really learning it. And then I always had the idea that I believe that creative and digital need to live in the same place. So, and they're very common now, but 5 to 7 years ago, they were always separate. You had a creative agency, content agency, and you had like a paid or an organic agency or a PR agency, whatever you want to call it. So for me, I always believe they should be in one place, and I still do. And I think luckily, as we sit here in 24, like that's paid off, because creative is one of the biggest drivers of performance. And we now have the kind of operational infrastructure to allow that to happen. So it was kind of, we took a long time to get there. That's like 11 years. And I've never been one to worry about like where you're at in your career and how, other people are ahead of you, and, comparing numbers and agency sizes and all that kind of stuff. I just don't care that much. I probably care more than I want to say I do. But like, for me, I've had this plan of like, get to 30. If it's all gone tits up, like, cool. You can go and do something else, and you'll have 13 years of experience in marketing, which now is an amazing thing to have, and dive into a few other little brands and businesses that I've set up along the way. But I've actually stopped most of them, because having the razor focus on this one thing I'm building is kind of key.
That's cool.
So that's the long answer to how I started.
Awesome. Well, you have such an unfair advantage coming from the creative space, because I think so many performance-based agencies now are realizing how important it is to have solid creative. We are one of them at Affluent. So we've been a meta-focused performance agency for years, and it used to be that you could media buy. Media buying really is a dying role. Media buyers are turning into creative strategists, and we've now just built that creative department. So coming from the creative side and then moving into performance, it's a great unfair advantage in the space. So over those 10 years, I can only presume that it hasn't been a straight line to success. Say whatever success is to you. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've fucked everything up on the long way. By the way, you're right to swear on here, because I'm gonna let that rip on this. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we've been a bad agency, we've been a terrible agency, we've been a great agency, we've been a bad agency again. Like, we've gone through everything, and I think that one thing I would say to anyone who's looking at the agency world is like, you've got to know what bad looks like to know what good looks like. You just have to have that approach. I've been a terrible manager. I've been a good manager. I think I've been a great manager as well, personally. Like, I've really tried to improve on that. I've had no patience with team. I've hired great people and they've left because of me. I've hired terrible people and we've kept them because of me. Whatever that might look like, you go through that. And I think that for a lot of younger people, which generally, I think the statistic on who starts agencies, it's a very young demographic, which is great. And that's amazing. It gives so much opportunities and helps economies and all that kind of stuff. But I think we're so hard on ourselves and I think society generally demonizes failure so much. And there's so much conversation around it's okay to fail, whatever. But if you look in the press around failure, if you talk to, if we're talking about someone that we might mutually know, we're talking about failure in a negative way. And that's just who we are as humans. I think that's where we're all kind of creatures of our own environment in some way. But yeah, man, I've had huge failures. I think every possible thing that you could have done wrong in like the agency world professionally, I've probably got, a good mark on the card on that. And I think that what I learned quite quickly is just like, you can only be so hard on yourself in this stuff. You've got to learn from it and try not to make the same mistake twice, but you've got to fuck a lot of stuff up to know what good looks like. And that's really, it's not kind of trying to be cliche and say like lean into failure and failure's part of growth, because it is that, but it's also just like, you get to the point where the stuff that used to be a massive deal to me, like let's say lose a big client, that used to like really, really hit me hard. And now the resilience you build up from going through that does change. It still hurts, but like you're growing and evolving. Don't get me wrong, we've been around for like 11 years. I've been in the game for a long time, and I've seen people come and go. and I've seen people come into it and do, massively excel from me, and that's super inspiring. But it's definitely like that journey is not a straight line. And I think that maybe for me, I think the way that people think about agencies is they're quite easy to start, and they're easy to do, and they're easy to lever, and there's quick cash to be made. And I do see that, and I was a product of that as well myself. I remember winning my first 300 quid a month client 11 years ago, and I also remember winning my first 5-figure client. But actually, what's harder for me, I think, is the 5-figure clients. And I think people think you bank that and then you do the same amount of work. Like, there's a huge difference between someone that's paying you £3,000 a month to 5-figure amounts. There's a different level. And for us, it's the commercial side is really important, but I want to be a good agency. I want us to build a great business that delivers great product, that people are happy to work in, that is doing something different and actually creating something. This isn't a build and burn model for me. This is really like a space I'm really passionate about, and we want to build something, and we are building something we think is important in the space.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you came from being a creator yourself.
Yeah.
And you yourself were the business and like all of us for so long.
Yeah.
How did you learn the business part?
Oh, mate, just getting it all wrong. The only way you can learn it, I think. I think there was definitely some people around that were quite helpful and guiding, from, speaking to your parents about what accountant have you used before that I can chat to and get some advice on. But I generally think the way you learn it is by getting it wrong. I also think that I've had good, it's interesting the people you bring in along the way. When you start hiring senior people who are older than you and have been in the game longer than you start learning some stuff from them. But like client management, client communications. I've been a client services manager, like I still am today in some capacities. I would talk with our clients if need be, if something's really good or something's really bad. It's not just when it's bad. And yeah, learning those skills is really stems from what agencies really are. It's about just managing people. It's all it is. And for me, one of my biggest downsides as a person is my complete lack of patience. To the point where it's our second value in the company. Number one is collaboration, number two is patience. And that breaks down to patience for yourself, patience for each other, and patience for the company. Because I have no patience, and it's been my biggest struggle in building a company. And that leading on to your question of how do you learn that stuff? I really struggled with that because I just couldn't. I was like, I want to learn this now, I want to learn it quick. And when you're young and you're excited and you're building a business and you're trying to prove something to the world, you just have no patience. You just don't. And to this day, I really struggle with that. And even in conversations with team or conversations with clients, or whatever it might be, the lack of patience has been my biggest hurdle. And I think that from the 10 years, 11 years almost, when you look back at kind of that time of how do you learn, it's kind of through a lack of patience, but it's also by having a lot of patience, you'll learn a lot quicker. But all of that lesson in itself is coming from doing. I do not believe you can run an agency 4 days a week. I do not believe you can run an agency 2 hours a day. I think that's complete bullshit. I think that the agency world is amazing, and if you can run an agency, you can run any business. I also believe that. When I say any business, I won't go like blue chip, but you can run any other model. Yeah. But I do feel that that kind of environment, if you can survive there, you really got a great skill set. And I can see that myself. I can see how when I started to where I am now, I'm a better manager through that period, and you would maybe get from the places. But agencies are just people. Yeah, that's what they are. They're just it's trying to manage people and understand what people want. You build great culture by understanding what people want, not by beanbags or whatever. I know everyone's saying that at the moment, but it is true. We've had a terrible culture before, awful. I'm surprised that many people would have stayed at the time. It was rough, and it was a product for me because I didn't understand it, and I was in my own head, and I had no patience and all those variables. So all those lessons of learning, whether it be the business side, the financial side, whatever, it's about patience for me, and it's about just giving yourself that time.
Yeah, I resonate with that so much, and I'd like to unpack the culture thing with you. But before we get into that, it's interesting. The patience thing is something that I feel deeply in myself, and I actually always wonder. And if you don't mind me saying, I know you're diagnosed ADHD.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Oh, nice.
And actually interesting, a lot of agency owners that I know are, and I think that lack of patience actually comes from without getting scientific, the lack of dopamine that we have. How have you found that ADHD in yourself
really hard
affected your journey?
Yeah, really hard. I mean, it's a gift, right? the biggest thing I actually struggled with was the patience thing. The second biggest thing was trying to understand like how people without ADHD operate. If that makes sense. Like that's kind of something I've struggled with, because I think, and this is not, and I always make this statement before I say anything else, because I do not think that people with ADHD are special and different from other people in that sense. I do not think we're like some gifted like version of human beings that, you know, I know a lot of people with ADHD who don't behave well, or, you know, they don't actually achieve stuff. It's a very difficult kind of chemistry within your brain. But what I will say is that I think that the way an ADHD brain works is just very different. You think differently, which means you're often misunderstood, and it's your duty to make yourself understood. And that's the bit that I've always tried to work on. It's like, if you are thinking differently, if you are approaching things in a different way, because I've had that challenge, I don't know if you've experienced that, but that's the challenge with me all the time. Team come to me with a problem, I can think about it in a completely new way and give them the solution that none of them have thought about, if, you know, they just don't think that way. But actually that can cause conflict because you can't communicate it the same way. But the issues I've had with ADHD personally are a few things. The first thing is speaking. I can't read, and I can read, but I can't write at all, generally. And as people listening to this will tell, I talk really fast. And that's because my brain is working quicker than my mouth can keep up, and sometimes will cause a stutter. So there's those variables which knock your confidence a little bit, and you want to deliver, but it's all about practice and just momentum for me to go through that. A common thing with ADHD that's closely connected is like dyslexia, which I also have, and also cyclothymia, which you might not know about, which is very common. And I would encourage you to go and speak to some sort of neuroscientist to sort of like understand it. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 8, and then I wasn't, and then it was, and then I wasn't, I was, and then I stopped doing all the tests about 10 years ago, and just sort of accepted it. And I'm not looking for a blue badge or a laptop during my exams, because I hated them anyway. So like, for me, it was understanding myself and trying to get like the patience thing, right? If I know I've got ADHD, I'll have more patience with myself and just be less harsh, which means I can move forward. But something that's very common with ADHD is cyclothymia, which the easiest way to explain it, and this is not necessarily scientific, is a very mild form of bipolar, which basically means with cyclothymia, you have more mood swings in a normal day than someone else. So if you with ADHD, that obviously can also come there with ADHD, and then it feeds into cyclothymia. And that's something I was diagnosed with about 6 years ago. I've never medicated for it. I've done some herbal stuff, that's not drugs, by the way. That's like ginkgo berry and all that kind of stuff, and certain vitamins and all that kind of thing to try and balance those stuff out. But it just means that sometimes the day is a bit shit. Like, I can have everything going for me. I can have just won that client. I can be really happy in the agency. I'm really happy to work. I'm doing things that excite me, and I can wake up and I can feel awful. And that's a challenge, because then the lack of patience with ADHD and all those other variables kind of come through. But all this stuff, all for me, it's just like understanding yourself. It's not necessarily sitting on a podcast and like complaining. It's just going like, I understand how I work, and now I can try and cope with that a little bit better, and I can learn from that process. Because I think if you understand you can understand people. Someone said that to me once, and I really resonate with that. A huge amount, and I completely agree. I mean, and I respect your sentiment of alluding to people with ADHD aren't special or don't have a unique gift. But I do think a lot of people find comfort in the idea that they do have the ability to think differently. And I do think it is in some way, whilst you are limited in many other ways, we have that ability to operate in chaos and thrive in chaos. And that really helps in an agency-based business where there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on. I think also just like, sorry to interrupt you, but like, you know, when everyone's like, oh, ADHD, here are all the famous people with ADHD, Richard Branson, Einstein, all that kind of stuff, Steve Jobs. Unfortunately, there are more people with ADHD that didn't make it. And that's the one thing that I think is often forgotten. Is like, yeah, that's so empowering for probably me and you to hear and be like, wicked, like Einstein had ADHD, I'm going to be really clever, or Branson had it, I'm going to have his skill set, or Jobs had whatever. But like, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, probably higher statistic, that didn't make it to whatever they deemed successful because ADHD set them back. And I think that's a negative way to look at it, but it's just a reality, I think, that often is forgotten, that like, it doesn't give you an ultimate kind of golden ticket to the gates and get you there really quickly. It can be, it's tough some days. Like, it's difficult. And what I do like, and what I think is good in the agency space, is I've got a lot of people in my team with ADHD, and some of my senior management don't have, or my previous senior management don't have ADHD, so they don't quite understand it. So I think it's quite nice that I do understand it. So when people are struggling and I can recognize the struggles, there's more from me from a leader to say, I get this, I actually understand it, because I just think it's quite hard to understand when you don't have it. That's the problem. It's just very difficult to communicate an ADHD brain to a quote unquote normal person.
Yeah, 100%.
Not that I've sounded bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I completely understand. I think that's why many of us gravitate to those creative roles, because I can, many a time, once if not twice a week in cases, I'll be sat there staring at the screen, needing to build out a funnel or something very techy, and whilst I do enjoy that stuff when I'm in flow state, and I think that's something you grasp. And, sometimes you're just sat there and you just physically cannot do that thing. And so I think that's why lots of us then gravitate to being creatives. And you went down this route of being passionate about film and helping production. And hence why you started this agency initially, is that passion for the love of the craft. But obviously, as we grow as business owners and as we get a team and as we actually do the business thing, we can't always remain the creative. Have you managed to hold that position somewhat, or are you now just purely founder? What's that?
I mean, yeah, up and down really. So I was still on the tools, if you will, from a creative side till COVID. So like till 2020, 2021. And then we built a really solid creative team who kind of managed to take on that process, and also kind of made decisions at the very top of the business that I needed to kind of move away from that. It also, I kind of got to the point where I was a bit tired of it, I'll be honest. Like it was quite exhausting at that point. I'd done it for 7 years straight by that stage. It's quite a long time. And yeah, definitely felt a bit like maybe I just need to be behind a desk for a couple of years and just kind of catch up. Because, I mean, I went hard. Like, I was shooting all the time, weekends. I was doing a lot with YouTubers and that kind of stuff, and shooting weekends and not really having much of a life. And yeah, I mean, the one of the rigs I ran for like 2 years was a Ronin, the very first Ronin by DJI with a FS7 on it. And for those that know, that is like 15 kg being held in front of you for like 6 days a week. So like, it just took it out of me a little bit. And I also was getting really like, at that stage of being a creator, so from 2013 to 2020, not the ages, from that period of time, like I actually wasn't managing the business side very well because I didn't have time. So actually it was a very strategic move to go, look, we need to figure out what our HR policies are, what our hiring policies are, how we work operationally, etc. Look at the digital side, because I was also doing the digital as well. So I was running socials with my team and also going out and shooting it. So I was super involved and doing client management. It's just not sustainable. So yeah, for the last kind of, for COVID, we obviously carried on shooting during COVID because we were allowed to. Did mean we were doing a lot of like internal studio stuff and not much vacation, whatever. So that time was quite good for me, as much as COVID was a terrible thing. Just reset myself a little bit, and really went into the business side, but also the digital side. Like I love the actual distribution. I love ad strategy, I love organic strategy, I love marketing strategy. I'm big on the psychological side as well, trying to really think about audiences and what they want to see. We obviously work in premium luxury brands, so I have an interest in that, and it was really interesting to kind of work on that side. So I wasn't going back to client work, I was just going more to like building team and building infrastructure. And then last year, actually, in this around this time last year, I was just like, I need to fire up the creative side of the brain more. And I'd had a kind of rough couple of years, to be honest, with just various things happening within the business and outside of it as well. And I just needed something to make me feel creative again. So I started my podcast. And the idea behind that was really quite selfish. I loved speaking with the contacts I had, the founders I had, learning about their businesses, learning about building brand strat, learning about, whatever they were doing. And I also felt that there was this is such a big plug, by the way, but I'll take it. But yeah, I also felt like there was a kind of misconception of like what it takes to achieve something at high levels. I really felt I'd seen that a lot. And people think you can just sort of start an agency and it works within 6 months. People think you can sort of start a brand and it works within 2 days. Like, I just wanted to give some transparency to that. And I love the production side. So we built a studio. We plan to do 30 episodes this year. We're 16 deep. We just changed studios as well for various reasons. But I just enjoyed it. I do all the post-production myself, and it means I can edit again in the evenings, and that gives me some satisfaction and some dopamine hits. And it isn't just like burning through slacks, doing all that kind of stuff. And it just allows me to meet interesting people, because I get the most motivation I get is from other people, not from like Instagram, TikTok and social platforms or whatever. Like actually sitting down with people, I love those interactions and just having random conversations about random shit. Like that's where I really get fired up. And I know that like I do, we can do like 2 in a day, for example. So we'll do like a whole filming day. We do 2 episodes, and like I'll spend 3 hours researching the guests and learning about that. I just love that process. And I do the post because I'm trying to get good at it. I'm trying to get good at actually podcasting. So learning that process again. And I think we were talking off camera, like how serious we're trying to take it. We've mapped out 3 years plan, like we would with any business, of what we want to do with our podcast, and where we want to take it. And that's really helped. And I think that would be my advice to any agency owner, would be, if you've got a creative mind, make sure you don't end up being sat behind a desk for too long. Do something. And I know everyone obviously always makes content to promote their agencies, whatever, but try and do something that's a little bit artistic and a little bit freeing, that you can get that dopamine from. Because I think you can fall into the trap of trying to find dopamine from bad places, which is also why like I run and cycle a lot and like all those other things, because I just have to. I had to run before I came here today because I woke up, felt really, really like a bit tense. I was excited about this and like whatever, but I was like, we've got lots going on at the moment. It's really busy, and I woke up, I was like, I just got to try and get some fresh air. So I've been running in Norwich. It's been interesting, for sure. Seen some interesting characters, but it's been good. I ran up a hill. It was quite tough, and then saw someone do some drugs on the street at 7 a.m.
Come on.
Cool. Welcome to Norwich.
Don't talk on Norwich.
I'm joking. I did see it, but it's been lovely. It's been lovely.
Okay, awesome. I completely feel the same way. I have I go camping, so
oh nice. Sweet.
I actually been doing it a couple of times a month of late, like this year. Just get out, reduce yourself to absolutely nothing, and especially if you've got at all, if any part of you desires any material, which I think I'm quite far away from now, but I've been through that. Reducing yourself to nothing is just ultimate therapy. I think you probably get the same thing from cycling and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to do something where I can't stare at a screen. Yeah. Like my retinas are fucked from like screens from cameras. It literally used to be like laptop, phone, and then camera screens, like staring at them all the time. So like, I need something where when I'm on a bike cycling 50, 60 kilometers, you just can't get your phone out. And like it allows you to have that sort of space. And I think that, it's trying to do activities like that where if my phone's near me, I've got out. I am addicted to it. Everyone is. Like it's a very hard addiction, and I think that we're all trying to get away from it. But I'm very like extremist, so I've got to force myself into those situations. So like sitting on a bike in tight light grass seems to do it for me. So I'll crack on with that and see how far it takes me.
Nice, that's a picture.
Yeah. I'll send you on there.
I think it's so easy for agency owners to get stuck in the tactics once you've been in the business for a long time. And I think that's the danger of being stuck behind a screen, because the strategy is what gets us excited in the first place. And that's really what you're getting out of the podcast, right? You are, and it might be a secondary and just a byproduct, but you're speaking to core ICP, and you're getting to understand core ICP even more, that ideal customer, and you can get in understanding their brains, which is the ultimate way to understand them, and then therefore that bleeds into the agency into a perfect symbiotic relationship. So
100%. And we've got, I won't say too much, we have got plans with what we want to do with 303 in the agency, and we have 303, and we purchased the automotive agency as well, which we're kind of developing out.
What was the thought process behind that, the purchase?
So at 303 we've done a lot in automotive, like shit-led. We've worked with kind of like some of the best auction houses, from Collecting Halves to Bonhams to Car and Classic, etc. Done lots of work with OEMs, done lots of work with smaller brands as well. So for us at that point, when Ralle and the guys that built Ralle were kind of looking to, they were amazing creatives, but they just didn't want to operate business. And they were kind of like, there was a couple of them involved, and it was an acquisition that we could kind of take on, and the acquisition paid for itself in about 6 months, and we brought that in, and we now service that through 303. And I think that being niche is really important. I'm sure you talk a lot about that. So 303 is the creative performance agency for premium luxury brands, whereas automotive is its own world. So for us, we brought in Ralle because what we do in automotive, like most automotive clients, want to have automotive agencies who understand it. So the team that, are on that agency and you kind of facilitate it, they understand that world. And we just see that really important. Does that mean we're going to go and buy like a fashion agency or not? No, it's just that move made a lot of sense to us, and kind of had paired in what we were already doing. But acquisitions like sound really sexy, but actually like most acquisitions in the agency landscape, if you actually look into them, and you can't look into them because the information is so easy to hide, you'll see that actually a lot of them are very like PR and strategic moves. They're not like big buyout acquisition pieces, unless you're getting acquired by Ogilvy or WPP or whatever that might be. Like, a lot of the acquisition stuff and the mergers are very strategic and they work very well. But all I would say, and this isn't to like slag anyone off or even slag us off, is like acquisitions are often just very like strategic brand pieces, because agencies now need to be brands to be successful, I believe. That's why we've got a agency name that's super easy to remember.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very important. I think we're in a market that is, of course, getting more saturated every year. And now,
do you know the figures on the saturation, by the way?
I don't. Do you?
Yeah, pre-COVID, 6,000 agencies in the UK that did a digital service. End of 2022, start of 2023, 14,500.
Wow. I would speculate that the majority of those agencies that have started, though, are 3-6-figure run rate, working with smaller brands,
yeah,
businesses. So essentially glorified freelancers to an effect. So it shouldn't impact the wider, market.
Yes and no. I think because the one thing that I do know about agencies, which people just have to be aware of, is like there's a lot of undercutting that happens, particularly back in London. Like, the undercutting is stupid, and actually you're doing the client a more of a disservice than you are like trying to get the undercut. And we've seen a lot of that. Like, it's stupid. The other thing though is I generally believe that if you're an individual wanting to start what you think is an agency, where actually you want to do the work and you want to become a specialist, be a consultant. You can actually charge more, and you can actually become more well known as a consultant than a one-man agency. So, i.e., like, if you want to start, I want to start an agency with me and one other guy, become a partnership of consultants, position yourself that way in the market. I honestly have seen more successful people do that, being very small and not worrying about growing a team if they don't want to. If they want to, then fine, be an agency. But being like a consultant or a partnership and being really specialist in that area, and people get your time and you're charging your time out, if you want to do the actual work as opposed to run the thing, I've just seen that be way more successful from my side.
It's interesting. How would you, if you were to start a consultancy, how would you acquire clients? Because from my perspective, as a consultant, you need more credibility because you're not physically proving by delivering the service.
Yeah, I think, starting from the very bottom.
You're starting
starting from the very bottom, I think it's like, obviously the bit that I know talk about is like, picking the niche and really understanding the niche, but that's where the reputation massively pays off. Like, I grew by people sharing my name, not the business's name. They grew from the work I did. I did a lot of stuff on like Instagram back in the day, like all that kind of stuff. I actually moved away from a lot of that, but like, your reputation actually drives you further forward as the guy to do that one thing, as opposed to like the agency to do that one thing. So it's harder to maybe get the kind of feet off the ground, and maybe the kind of customer acquisition is more difficult. But if you want to just be niche and deliver, let's say you're Facebook ads person, you're your meta person, you want to run better performance for jewelry businesses that are generally, middle of the range market on, male and female fashion. Let's say that's what you want to do. Becoming the guy for that as a consultant, if you want to actually deliver the work, and just becoming known for that thing, is much more powerful, I think, than if you don't actually, if you want to do the work, but you also want to build an agency, and actually you only want to get like 1 or 2 more people in your team, but you still want to do the work. Like, positioning yourself as an agency, I think people, they just then assume like you're going to have the other clients, etc. I just think that it becomes more attractive to the market in the way I see it. I consult for brands outside of 383. And I'll be known as the premium and luxury guy a little bit in the circles that I've done that in. And I'll often sit in, and it'll be strategy consultancy. And then there is obviously like an agency behind that they can utilize if they want to. But I've also worked with brands who've got other agencies involved, and I'm sitting within the brand side to say, look, this is where I'm going to go. I've consulted, so I can see how it works. I do that mainly out of like hobby and kind of enjoyment, because I like being involved in the business side as well. But yeah, people have sometimes brought me into teams to say, you can be the marketing arm of this small team, and this is brands that are kind of like doing low 7-figure low 7-figure revenues a year. So they're not huge brands, but it's really interesting to be a part of.
It's a very enjoyable process, consulting, and you don't have to do the doing. So you can think much more strategically. And I've done a lot of consulting myself with many brands, just away outside the agency as well. And I've always found that a very interesting process.
And I do, you're really good at it as well. Like, that's the biggest thing.
100%. You can't blag that. I think many agencies blag because I think they see other agencies that are successful and they just try and mimic. And even just the idea of really trying to make yourself known as an agency, and we have this team and we're established. It's counterintuitive to growth, and because we're in what I believe at least to be a trust crisis in the space. It's definitely for direct to consumer brands, which is both our marketplace, and I think certainly with local business as well, it's happening. There are not many businesses out there that are relatively established and have not worked with an agency and been burnt or had a bad experience from their perception at some point.
It's because the barrier to entry is so low, right? Like, it's the problem. I mean, it's the reason why we've done what we've done, and why a lot of agencies have grown. Even the big ones like David Ogilvy, the founder of Ogilvy, he started it from nothing, and he didn't even get investment or whatever, and I think his experience at the time was very low. So it's amazing, and that is similar in other industries, not just agencies. But that barrier to entry at the moment, I think that it is a problem, and like the stat I will go back to that we mentioned before, like that number is on the decline, because what people are realizing is they're getting high churn, they don't actually know about the delivery, they are getting caught out is probably what I would describe it as, and that is causing the agencies to either close doors or not work out, or people think the agency model doesn't work because actually they haven't gone from nothing and they haven't put the time in to become good. I've been in this for 10 years, I'm pretty good at what we do. That's how long I think you've been around for 6-7, right?
7 years.
Yeah, you've been around for long enough, but you become obsessed with it, and that's what I think agency owners have to do, is become obsessed with it. Think about the niche, think about the service line niche as well. Like a lot of agencies are trying to do everything, and we've tried to do that too. We basically have 2 departments and they're split out. So we have creative and digital, and there's 3 departments within digital side, and then creative's kind of got pre-production and post effectively, and there are different teams to that. Some of those are one-man teams for full transparency, like they're not 100 people. But yeah, I think becoming really knowing your shit in this space, I think is key, because otherwise it's actually horrible to run. Like I remember when I didn't know enough, it was horrible because you are getting caught out and it's more stressful, and that's where you make more mistakes. If you don't, do you know what I mean? Like if you're not helping yourself, you're also definitely not helping clients, and it's cash at the end of it.
It is one of those things. It's a tricky situation because we talked about failing forward, and in many cases, to get really good at service delivery, you do have to just give it a really good shot with your best foot forward. Ideally, with someone that's helping you, or maybe a consultant, or some kind of information. You're being led by someone that's already done the thing. But in many cases, you still really can't prepare for your first meta ad campaign until you actually create that first meta ad campaign. Yeah. And so I think it is natural that in the early stages of an agency, you do experience higher churn. And obviously the catalyst to you continuing to grow is reducing that churn. And I know we mentioned off camera that you've had, and I certainly have as well, experienced times, certainly in the early stages, of poor churn in the business and losing clients. And I think as an agency in 2024, churn and reducing churn has to be number one priority, because if there are so many options and there are so many different people that you could speak to, and there are so many that are willing to undercut you, it's about building those incredible relationships and maintaining them for years to come. 100%. So can you tell me about the churn issue that you had, first of all, in Predatory, and if you don't mind, and then let's then explore what you did to reduce that churn, and now what your philosophy is around that.
Yeah, so churn issue, we've had it multiple times, and defining issue would be, we've noticed a lot of clients aren't re-signing and the feedback's the same. That's what I would define as a churn issue. It wouldn't be, we originally would have a minimum time of 3 months. We did actually change that to 6 months, because what we did find is that, and this is purely on the way our model works, which is not at all unique in some capacities. I think it's unique because it's my team, but it's not unique, and you'll probably have the same thing. Is within 3 months of getting stuff up, we were rushing onboarding so much, and we were trying to get clients in the door, and we were trying to build a marketing strategy, a performance funnel, a marketing funnel in 2 weeks. And you can't put a team under that much stress. If you were employing someone, if that business or that brand was employing people, you wouldn't expect them to onboard in 2 weeks. So why would you an agency? No matter how many people are working on the thing. So we found that the 3-month contract was rushing onboarding, not providing enough for long-term thinking, because most agencies, and I do think this is wrong, are we get in the door, you work with us, hey client A, you work with us and we'll provide results within X period of time. We don't promise anything. We forecast, but we don't promise, right, we are going to deliver you this or money back. We don't do any deals, we don't do any discounts. You're buying the team's fractional time. And my job is to acquire the best team I possibly can and the best clients we possibly can, and put those two things together. That's basically how I see our role, in the best possible way. So yeah, one thing for us was by the end of 3 months, if you're taking, we've got an amazing performance team now. If you're taking that performance team and trying to get them to think about how to market, they're not a sales agency, they're a marketing agency, market a product to make impact in a 3-month window. The biggest brands in the world don't think like that. Coca-Cola is not thinking like that. Apple does not think, how are we going to get results in 3 months? They are thinking years, 6-month iterations, multi-year iterations. That's not to say we don't not deliver, but it's to say you've got to think longer term. So for us, we know that within a 6-month window, we can prove our worth. We can look at how we can pay for ourselves. We can look at how we are impacting key metrics and value and also revenue, if those two things count, how we can build out creative, etc. And that changed for us because we actually realized that we were shooting ourselves in the foot because we couldn't deliver what we needed to deliver in 3 months. It's impossible because we wanted it to be to a certain standard. So that was the first thing we did. That does provide a problem in building trust within 6 months. But I think the one thing I'd say on a sales side personally is, and I obviously do a lot of new business development now for our business, is that if you're having to discount it at that early stages, I think you're already showing that you don't trust the product personally. We obviously work with premium luxury clients. It's the same process for them. Just because their product's more expensive doesn't mean we charge them more. It's not how it works. So yeah, for us in terms of the new business side, saying it's a 6-month minimum, not a 3-month minimum, people go, oh, okay, that's a bigger commitment. But I'm like, yeah, but that is the commitment. It's not, the 3-month doesn't exist for us. We don't do 3 months. It's not a thing. There are some instances where we are doing 3-month kind of agreements because we're doing content stuff, and that kind of campaign can last over 3 months. So there's a bit of a stipulation there, but generally I think 6 months or multi-year contracts. As we sit here today, I have 2 clients that have been with us since 2016.
Awesome.
Which is cool. Started off, just taking some photos for them in their places, and now we run everything for them. I'm not going to say who they are, but that's really cool. But yeah, we've kind of, the churn stuff is always sometimes a massive reflection of how organized you are, and also what's being sold to them versus what you deliver. And I think in agency new business, there's a lot of overselling and there's a lot of bullshit promising. And I think that's why churn happens. Mm-hmm. That's what happened to us. Like we literally promised them a world because the number was the biggest number we've ever seen on a contract in our life. And we were like, we will throw everything at this. And that is the worst thing you can do. If someone says no to you because your best offer, which is your team, your service that you spent time doing and the product you've got and the results you've had for other people, how you position the market, your knowledge individually. If that's not good enough for them, it's not good enough for them. You don't need to knock off half the 50%. I just don't believe in that. I know that I do know other owners that do believe in that, and I don't have a problem with that at all. I just live in a world where, like, for me, like, we really believe in our team now as we sit here today and the product we do, and we've been doing this for long enough. I've been doing it a lot for long enough to see what's going to happen. And the whole kind of like discounting thing, it doesn't help churn. Like it actually increases it.
Yeah. I mean, churn is arguably essential for an agency because it shows you where your weaknesses are and how you can improve. And we have to strive. There is not I would struggle to meet an agency owner, I certainly haven't as of yet, that has not had some kind of bad experience with churn at some point. You have to overcome it because you just cannot, unless you've come from a complete unfair advantage, having the perfect service and immaculate communication from the start. And I completely agree. We have the same philosophy. When you're going to tender or you're pitching on a client you know multiple agencies are going for, we certainly will never be the cheapest on the table, and we won't go for price-based leverage. Yeah. Because it's not about that. People, and I think the market is adapting to that as well. I think that we went for a period, I would say 2022, where lots of businesses it was a price fueled market, and we were somewhat commoditized in this space, and it was like, well, meta ad should cost no more than X amount because that's what everybody's charging, blah blah blah. And I think now, because loads of businesses have worked with a multitude of different agencies, they're now coming back to terms with the fact that they just really want to work with someone they can trust. Someone that's really got their back. And you know what, saying, okay, it's actually going to take 6 months, not 3 months, and managing their expectations and telling them what they don't want to hear, in so many cases will just like expedite your ability to build a solid relationship with that person. 100%. And I think that's arguably one of the biggest mistakes that new agency owners make, is they get stuck in this new offer rat race, as I call it, and we're going to promise you this result in this amount of time. And what it is a band-aid for a lack of leverage from a perceptional standpoint and a lack of credibility.
It often means your pitch isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, it often means your proposal's not good enough. You're maybe not good enough for that client at that stage. Just accept that. Like, the only thing that discounting, offering, and kind of trying to undercut people does is just screws you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, I've been there when I'm like, So, I mean, I need to be slightly careful what we say here, but like, I've been in a position where I had a team that was a big team, and that team looked after the same amount of revenue as a team that is half the size does now, and we deliver a better product, a better result, a more cohesive result. We have more satisfied clients. We're happy with it, and our team are happy with it. And that problem came from undercutting ourselves and charging too little and all that kind of stuff, and trying to do a deal and blah, 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 and having 3-month contracts. That's why it actually cost us way more. And I know that team was much unhappier than the team I have now. I know that they didn't enjoy their roles as much as this team do now. I know all that stuff. So it's just so important. And I think that the newness in the market and the new people in the agency space, like all of that stuff, like if you go at it kind of trying to compare price and stuff, you've just got to be really careful of that. Because like, you know, let's say I charge the same amount to a client with the team I have, you know, with my performance team, for example. The guy who runs my performance team has been doing this for 10 years, worked with the most incredible brands and worked in 4 different agencies, one of which was massive, and has got ridiculous experience, is the most knowledgeable person I know. We'll probably charge the same price, roughly, as someone who's got half his experience, but the client will never know that. They will never see the difference of those two things, and I could market them both in the same way if I was good at new biz, and I think anyone could. So you just fall into that trap where like it's gonna be the biggest headache for you as an owner if you go down that route, I believe. So yeah, we try and avoid it, but that was kind of a big reason why we had the churn we had. And you do, like, we actually have the best churn we've ever had as we sit here for the last basically a year. Our churn rates are almost non-existent, which is really good.
So what do you think the secret is to client retention?
Communication, 100%, and not over-promising. So, like, obviously you got to deliver good, like the standard stuff, fine, but it's the over-promising that kills you. It's saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, and not having the confidence to actually go into a negotiation, because you don't want to lose the pitch, you don't want to lose the proposal. Like, that's the problem. Like, I've been there. I've been in a position where you're like, oh, they're not sure about it, so I'll make this free, or I'll do this, or we'll add this on, whatever, and your team just hate you after that. Like, and I still, to be fair, I still have that problem a little bit, because from a sales perspective, I sometimes struggle with the correlation that I am the agency and the agency is me, and you know, all those other kind of variables. So yeah, I think for me, it's kind of like making sure we really stick true to what we believe, and we know we've got a great team that know what they're doing, the great product. We're not a perfect agency. No agency is. It's impossible. Even the big ones, like I had a huge agency who just lost one of the biggest brands in the world, and that's because of like their delivery, their team. It's not because of anything else. Yeah. I know that example has happened. I can't say that is, but we all know the brand and we'd all know the agency, and they just lost a multi-million-pound contract because of the delivery.
Well, we talk a lot about team, and we throw around in business, and certainly in the agency space, the need for A players, and we throw that around quite liberally. And in a market where we have so many new agencies starting, in a market where there are so many great established agencies as well, and a lot of good competing services, what is your philosophy around bringing in A players into the business? Yeah. And what does that look like for you?
So we've been an agency where we hired really, really cheap junior team who knew nothing. And I thought, you know, this was about 6 years ago. Like, I thought I could teach anyone anything. Just arrogance, right? So we would hire in people with no experience and try and teach them everything, and that just doesn't work. Great people, but just like, again, so like I do believe that I'm responsible for everything. So like, it was my bad and like just completely mistake. So we then moved to really focusing on more senior roles and midweight roles, people with experience and backgrounds in certain areas that we could bring in and bring that knowledge into from. The first thing I just want to say is that you've got to remember there's a difference between someone who is your number 2, who's, you know, very, very senior head of client services role, whatever, and a junior account manager. What they can achieve in an hour is completely different. And often I think that's forgotten. So when we're starting agencies, we're like, right, I'm going to get them cheap and they're just going to work all the time. But actually what they can achieve in 8 hours, if you bring in someone more senior, might be able to achieve that literally in an hour. So you've just got to, I think that's often forgotten. And I made that mistake massively, thinking you need as many hands as possible. And that's what's going to drive it. Actually, it's quality. Quality is really important. I think a lot of agencies struggle to attract A players in terms of not like your pension scheme and your health plan. but like, I think most people want to work on a client, but they also really care about who's driving the ship on what we are as an agency. And we've attracted, very thankfully, some amazing people from all spectrums, like very new to the space and very senior. Like we've brought in some amazing people. Our senior creative, Sam, started with me by DMing me on Instagram in 2016, 2015. Had a job out of uni as an intern with us, and he's now a senior creative 4-ish years later, and he's one of the most incredible individuals like in our team, and is learning so much along the way. But like, I just have so much like respect and kind of admiration for him. He's stuck with us through thick and thin, and he's been insane. Like, he started as an intern, and a very good intern and an underpaid intern, and now where he is today is like leading a team, and he's now understanding what that looks like, and he's involved in very top level stuff, very senior things which are completely new to him, but like he's always just doing his best. But I think loyalty is the biggest thing I look for within team, and I don't mean that to say if someone leaves 303 they're not loyal, but in terms of like the loyalty in the day-to-day for the people around them. This isn't about me now, this is just how they look at other people and how they will stick by other people. Like, that's a really key quality, because the grass is always greener, right? Everyone always thinks that. My thing is just water your own grass. It might be different. And I think we're at such a pace now in people's careers where they do want to change, and on average, people changing jobs in agency every 2.5 years, I think, isn't that, or 2 years, something like that. So it's moving around a lot, and I used to get really emotional about it. I used to get really, really like, it used to hit me, and I used to be like, shit, like, I'm not good enough, they don't like me, it's personal, whatever it might be. And then you kind of get to the point where you go, actually, like, people just sometimes want different things. And if you can get someone who's got great loyalty, that's great. But it's not about loyalty to the business, it's about loyalty to what they really want, staying true to themselves, staying true to the team around them. And yeah, if they can be loyal to us and support us as a business, then fantastic. But that's like a quality that if someone comes in and they're just focused on themselves completely all the time, you really struggle with that in agency environments. And we've had that, and it's difficult, and it's part of being young and part of being learning, I think.
100%. I think it's interesting because I know we sit at opposite ends of the table quite literally from the perspective of our chemical makeup of the business, in the sense that we are an entirely virtual business, and all of our team members are all over the world, quite literally, and you have an office, and I think there's got pros and cons which I'd love to unpack with you. But sure. The one of the things that I perceive and that I've seen, we have very, very, very low team churn, and one of the reasons why I believe that is because then they have a very unique opportunity in working from where they want and sitting and staying at home. And sometimes we encourage people to go. I've got team members who are on workations all over the place at the moment, and we love that. And when you're in a physical office, and of course there's massive benefits to that, you are much more likely to be sold another opportunity by another company that might have a better situation for you as well. And so there are more variables that come into play there, especially in London environment.
Now, people have said, I'm leaving because I can work from home.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Yeah, happens all the time.
What's your philosophy around that?
I believe that human beings are best as like a pack. And I think that pack mentality is really strong. Like, we have a bit of a hybrid model. So we have work from home day during the week, on set days, or Tuesday or Wednesday. And we believe in just people being together. We also have like creative and digital, and the collaboration for that is really important. I think younger generations complain a lot about screen time, but then spend all their time on a screen at home, which I think is slightly counterintuitive. I just believe in like people being together. Like, I just think that you get the most from people. Then I've seen it in like, client stuff. And to be honest, like, we're really upfront about it. Like, if you want to work from home and or work from in a world, we're not the agency for you. Sorry, we're just not it. There's nothing wrong with you, but there's also definitely nothing wrong with us. Yeah, that's just who we are. It's how we work. And some of our team even today, like, I'm sure they would love a bit more work from home. And we try and offer some level of flexibility. If someone's like, I've got to deep work on this mad thing for 2 days, I'm going to do it from home because everyone's distracting the office and everyone's like talking too much. I'll be like, the senior team will be like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, we're not kind of like militant about it, but we just want to try and create an environment where people are in that hybrid solution in office, where like on a Monday morning we're together, we're saying hello to each other, having those conversations, because I just think that like life is fucking hard for a lot of people. Like, all of us, like, everyone's got shit going on, and staying at home all the time to do that. For some people is amazing, but for some people that think it's going to work for them and it doesn't, it's pretty draining. And I just think that like having that environment, and like if someone's got something going on, like let's say there's a compassionate leave situation, I'm like, get out of it, don't come in, like stay home as all you need, like reset yourself, like look after your fucking self, like you're going through some really hard shit. But like for us, we try and encourage people to have that routine, spend time with each other, because all our team like each other, which is one thing I would always say about 303 is that like, of course you do get some people that don't vibe with others and whatever it might be, like it's always going to happen. But like, no matter who's been in our team, I think most of the time, as a group of people, they've all got along really well. Like, even if that set of people have then left, or there is one or two people that just didn't really vibe with them, or, I'm sure if anyone's listening to this who's worked in my company, they might be like, I hated everyone in there. I didn't know, fair enough. But like, generally, like, I would say that the social life that happens outside of the business is really important. Like, I know loads of groups that don't do stuff. Like, we had a group of like these kind of group of lads who were all in the creative team. Some of them have left now, but like they're all still pals now, and there's relationships or whatever. I just think you get that from working in an office, and that's cool. But as I sit here as the number one and the leader, like I believe in people to people. Like it's who I am. It's why like I don't even do my podcast over Zoom. I just think it's all about being in the room with someone. And I worry that there's a slight contradiction in some of the younger generations, our generation, and the one below us, and maybe even the one above us, where like they want less screen time and they want more connection, but then they want to work from home all the time. Yeah, like my philosophy and the 303 way is like we believe in a hybrid model. If you've got loads of deep work to do for a serious reason, we also brought in this sorry to jump around here, but I thought of this thing like 2 years ago called a life admin day. So we got like, I won't go through our whole package of like compensation and remuneration for our teams, but like everyone was kind of asking for more holiday from us, right? Which is kind of what I thought people just wanted, like to get out of the office more. And I was like, okay, but I want it to be productive. Like I want you to actually go and, not just go to Ibiza and get more drunk for an extra 6 days a year or whatever it might be, or just not actually take time to look after yourself. So we introduced it 2 years ago. And it's basically every month the team get half a day to class as life admin, where they go and deal with life admin. That's getting the earlier train home to see their parents in the country. That's getting the earlier flight for the holiday they're going to go on, or it's going to the post office, or it's seeing their parents, or it's seeing that friend they haven't seen in ages who is on a day off and they want to be at work. So they can do it in the morning between 9 and 1, or in the afternoon between 2 and 6. And they get it every single month. And that allows for another 6 extra holidays a year. But that time we say, look, if you do need to cheekily use it because you're a bit hungover, you've actually got to book it a week in advance. But like, it allows them, and we encourage them to go and focus on the admin of life. Get the dishwasher delivered if you need to be at home. Go and, if you're having some hard time with your partner, or you're having some shit going in your family, book it next week, book it for the next week, and go and actually deal with that issue. So it encourages them to do that. If I find out people are using it for other stuff, I just say, look, it's not really what it's designed for. This is to try and help you in your life so you can actually enjoy your work more. So they get their normal holidays and they get it half a month. You use it or you lose it. You can't stack it up or anything like that. And we found people like it and people enjoy it. And we just encourage them to go and deal with shit, because I'm really bad at life admin. I do it all at like night, on the weekends, and while I'm working. So, and I've actually never used a life admin day, because obviously for me it's a bit different, because it's a different schedule. But doing something like that, call them life admin days, it's a half day, which is a bit contradictory. We might even do it for a full day if it really works. But for the last 2 years, it's really worked for us. But we encourage people to use it for the right reason, which isn't forcing people of how they should spend their time outside of work. We're not trying to do that model. We're just trying to actually encourage them to deal with the shit that builds up inside you, that makes you sit at a desk and go, I haven't sent the Zara haul back. I haven't, spoken to my mum or seen her for a coffee. I need to go and see Gran in like a care home. Like, go and do that stuff. I need to go to the dentist. Obviously, all those things are separate as well. So, like, it just allows for admin. That builds up.
Awesome. I absolutely love that.
That's good, mate. Try it. Even for remote, like, just, you think that it's going to be like more time away, but actually, like, the way people use it's really interesting. You can see patterns. Some people use it every time. There's a few people that always use it on a Friday afternoon, which is fine. Like, they can go home to their parents earlier, or they can go on holiday or whatever. But then some people take it like, they'll work from home on a Tuesday and then they'll have life admin on a Wednesday, and they'll come in because they've had a really intense couple of weeks and they've just reset themselves a little bit, and it offers a bit more to it. Some people haven't liked it, to be fair. Some people have just wanted more holiday to do what they want, but you can't, when you build an agency, you're dealing with people, you can't
21 days is a decent amount of time for holiday.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do an extra. They gain an extra day per year they work. We do 20 days holiday, 1 day for your birthday, 8 bank holidays makes it 29, and then or makes it 30 or close to, and then you get an extra 6 on top for life admin, and then you gain 1 every year.
Wow.
But the standard is 25 now in London. Yeah. Most agencies will be 25 days holiday, plus bank holidays, plus birthday. But we're basically that, but we've got this life admin thing.
It's interesting because your team are, I mean, presumably city people, and we are mainly country people. Now, ironically, because we built this creative department, and Joe, my business partner in the agency, lives in Sheffield. He's actually just started a studio. So we have the creative department working from studio because I just found that's really important and just for obvious reasons. But media bars and so on are kind of all over, and mainly just because of the fact that we can't restructure the entire team at this point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. I would just, if I was to start again, I'd still build in person. I would still try and build like or at least partly. I think that we're basically hybrid, effectively, with a day work from home and the way we kind of approach, nuances. But yeah, I wouldn't be fully remote. Like I also don't know how I'd manage that bit. It just is a bit into me.
It has its pros and cons, and I think as the founder, you have a lot of freedom, and that's very nice. And there's never going to be any resentment for not being in the office because and I've heard it many times by those with offices that as the founder, if you spend too much time in the office, then you can't be as efficient as you need to be. I mean, because I operate at a very high level and get a lot of stuff done personally, and it's because I can close a Slack window and just dial in for the entire day. And I think there is a balancing act there. And I think that if the team had my support, in some cases there'd be more. You could argue that actually they learn quicker and they force themselves to adapt quicker. So there's pros and cons to both. I don't think it's right or wrong. I think it is very individual.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the politics of like, I'll sit there and be like, everyone's, I hate lateness, for example. So people are in the office late. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I mean, respect everyone else. It's not about like the rules. It's about respect. That's just the way I've always done today. It's a little bit more archaic, I know, but like, it's just always how I've valued it. And it's, being late doesn't affect you. It affects everyone else. There's always a reason for it. And like, sometimes life doesn't go your way and we understand that, but like being late is shit. But like, and then if I'm in late, it's like, oh, hold on a second, and I'm like, well, actually, no, there's this the reason, but I just don't have to tell anyone the reason. So it's just playing that game. But that's the life of any owner. That's the life of any business owner. Like the rules are different for you. You've got to play the rules to be respectful for the team and make sure you're upholding the same standards. There's always nuances for that. You've got to keep calm in those situations because when someone's like, wait, you were late though, it's really annoying because like, well, I was late because I was on a call outside the office for 6 hours, like whatever it might be, or I'm late because I got in at 2. Who knows? I think it's just trying. There's always a balancing act to be measured when you're dealing with people. That's what it comes back to, right?
Do you find it's difficult to craft the life that you want if you are somewhat chained to your own office?
No, probably not. Because I like being with my team. So, like in a week, I'm probably there 3 to 4 days. I like working from there. I hate working from home. I do work from home 1 day a week, but it will often be, doing other work or just being on calls, whatever it might be. But then also like I've got another satellite office in Waterloo in central London, which is part of the founders club I'm part of, which isn't just a wanky founders club. It's actually a really decent one that's doing some really cool stuff with some really interesting people, working with other founders, having that contact time. But yeah, in terms of like the life I want to leave, like I don't really leave. Like I travel around for work stuff, whatever it might be, but like I'm not a big like I want to go and do those holidays every year. I just don't. Just not who I am. Like I just really enjoy my work. Like I just want to work. That's like kind of it.
I'm flying to Spain tomorrow, and it's a 5-star, like not in Warmfish. It's a spa resort, the best hotel you can ever see, and I cannot be asked. I want to sit and I want to work and I want to optimize the new VSL that I launched this week. I want to A/B test some headlines, and I want to see what's going on. But needs must, and other people surrounding you need to have that time.
100%. And it's a balance, right? And it's like the people around me have been incredibly patient with me because I've always just been like, you know, I used to have to say to people, I just don't leave the M25. It's like my moat. I've got like a little moat around London that I buzz around. And it is like, you know, I went away for the first time a couple of weeks ago in like 2 years, basically, to a place I've gone to for the last 20 years. It was really comfortable and I really enjoyed it and I had a nice time with it. But yeah, it's just one of those things for me where like I don't care about holidays. I don't care about like, I just if I want to do them, I'll go do them for sure. But at the moment, as I sit here today, like it's not something that I'm like I can't feel so tied and attached to it. Don't get me wrong, I've had an intense couple of years with the business for various reasons. So I'm trying, you know, make sure that I'm looking after myself in that sense and getting some downtime and some decompression. But I'm also really excited about what we're doing. Like we're doing some really cool shit. We've got some really cool people that are in our team. Some really cool work we're doing. We're finding really good successes. I'm obsessed with the podcast we just launched. That's really enjoyable. Like, you know, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have pure love and enjoyment for what you do, then you don't need to replenish so much in that time. And there's certainly no escapism. I think for many people that those longer holidays are, quite, in many cases, escapism, and that old term that we haven't said in 8 years now for me, 10, 11 for you, is that back to reality?
Yeah, and I don't get me wrong, I think there'll be a time where I'll just be like, yeah, this year I'm just going to go and travel around. I also hate flying, which is really easy. So like, not liking flying makes my life quite simple. I can go on a plane, I just fucking hate it because I don't understand how it works. That's generally the reason why. I just cannot get my head around the fact that you can fly. Like I can understand a lot of stuff, but a tube in the sky, I don't get it. But yeah, I think for me, it's just one of those things where like I'll probably get to a point where I want to travel around a lot and I want to go see things, and the people around me do too. And like, you know, awesome, that'd be great to do. I'm sure I'll do that. But just today and for the last couple of years, I've just not cared that much, to be honest. And in terms of like the life I want to lead, yes, of course, like I would like to buy more property. I'd like to buy more cars. I'd like to buy more, like all this kind of stuff for sure. But I think what I'm really like care about now in my kind of going into my veteran years slightly is like just really enjoying as many weeks as you can. Because I think one thing you get into the habit of doing, particularly in agency, is having like 4 weeks of hell, 4 weeks of great, 4 weeks of hell, like that kind of cycle, or just being really tied to it, or just not enjoying every day. My biggest focus is trying to get the enjoyment like levels consistent where you can, and enjoy, like I enjoy more now when we get stuff wrong than I used to. So those pieces are more important to me than like trying to focus on other stuff. Like it's just enjoy the work, because I do feel with agencies a lot of people are like, work really hard, put yourself through hell, and then you can have the reward. I just think that's not how you live in life. I think it's like challenge yourself, work really hard that you enjoy doing, because you'll work harder because you enjoy doing it, and then if you get some other things outside of that are other rewards, don't just put yourself through hell for the sake of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think happiness actually exists without that deep level of challenge that it takes to actually earn that moment of clarity where you feel a momentary experience of what true happiness is. Yeah. So I think what we actually experience and most people think is happiness is just long-term fulfillment. And that's what we fortunately get a lot of. And you've achieved so many incredible things in the agency. I mean, I looked on your Instagram yesterday and I saw that you recently, interested whether you signed these guys or whether it's just been a collaborative project, but you recently started working with HexClad.
Yeah.
People that don't know is they had the Ramsey endorsed.
We've done a few things for them. We're working on something at the moment which we can't actually talk about, but we've done lots with them, and that came from a relationship I had with someone who I worked with in 2017, and we worked together really closely on some stuff for him. We did a few brand products for him and with him. He's a creator and sort of well-known figure. And then he started working with HexClad and then brought us into the picture. I've always stayed close to him. I've known him since 2017, I think I've known him. And they were looking for some content creative support on the UK market, which is exploding for them. I mean, like insane business that is like
sensational,
incredible business. And like a lot of the stuff that's actually written about them is inflated, but what they actually do is incredible in terms of like Danny, the guy that founded it. This is a really good example of the business people I really respect. He was selling pots and pans for 15 years before he started HexClad. The only way he started HexClad is he was in, I want to say it was China. I might be wrong on the country there, but I want to say it was China. He was at a show that he'd been to for like 10 years consistently, like, you know, year on year, every year would go to the same trade show. He was like traveling around the world selling pots and pans. He's like super unglamorous in many respects, like, but he worked harder and he knew what he was talking about when it came to pots and pans and ovens and like all that kind of cookware. And he saw this guy with the material that's now on a HexClad grilling chicken skewers on it, and he lifted up the chicken skewer and it didn't stick. And he put it back down again. He was like, holy shit, that's like super non-stick and it's stainless steel. Like, that's a really interesting product. Next day, goes to the factory that's made it, signs a contract with them, HexClad starts. They are a £1 billion company, I would say, if not close to it. And he works so hard on it in the right areas. And yeah, Ramsey's involved, and I don't know all the politics of it, but just like, and their team are like amazing. You know, we work with a lot of team that are over in America, and they are just like the nicest people. They really understand it. They value us when we work with them. We really feel valued, which is amazing. I'll be honest with you, you don't get HexClad by cold email. You don't get HexClad by like emailing it. Right? It's about like the relationships, and like I would say working with HexClad has taken me 7 years.
So, and I completely agree, by the way, absolutely. I think that cold outreach gets you to a certain point, but beyond a certain point, it's you certainly can't reach into that level of client. Just quick fire, roughly how many clients have you worked with as an agency?
520.
Awesome. That's very specific. That's awesome.
Yeah, I only know because in our every time I log into our Finance Zero, it says how many contacts we have. So it's how many contacts we've invoiced to is 520. That's from brands to businesses to we've done the corporate stuff as well. So like we've worked with like 4 of the major banks over the years.
Amazing. How does something like that come up?
Worked with 2 private banks because I knew a guy that knew a guy, and I was known as the guy that could do the content. So that was all it was. And another one of them was some LinkedIn stuff.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. And I noticed, and this is obviously public knowledge, so we're not going to go to anything private. Even just on your client list, you've got some massive events, like Herbal Essences, for example. Can you walk us through?
That was Instagram DM.
Was it? Yeah. What does your client acquisition strategy look like inside of it?
It's changed a lot over the years. I went through a period of time, this is no bullshit, where like I would basically sign clients in Instagram DM. So like I used to like Instagram a lot more than like I don't really use the platform that much anymore. I kind of promote the podcasts on it, but just it's very old for me now. And like I don't know, I do find it quite intensive. Like I really like your shit, but and others, but like generally it's just quite a lot, and I think it's easy to just get stuck in a scroll doom. I love the way it works, and I like the actual product. But yeah, anyway. So I used to like upload stories every day, and my strategy was like top until the 24 hours. So I'd go to and I generally do get into the office quite early now, but like when I was a young buck, I'd have to get in for like 5, and I'd often leave like 10. Like that was just because I was shooting all the time. So get in at 5, edit, then go shoot, whatever. Like I just had an active day, and these are the days I was like running around London, and I would just like document everything. Like, I would just be like, I used to ride in like a electric scooter when they first came out, and like I'd do it into the office, and the thing I'd do is timestamp. So I'd put in like, got to the office at 5 a.m. because I thought it was fucking cool, and I'd leave at 10, and like people would just follow that, and a few thousand people watching it. I started working with some of the automotive YouTubers and started to do more stuff in like with influencers and creators and shooting their content, and then working with the brands on distributing it and involved in some strategy stuff, and it's really cool. And I just always do it on Instagram, and then like San Miguel, their brand, Herbal Essences, De Beers, and there's another one as well. All I send my contract as an attachment, as a photo in Instagram.
That's sensational. To who? To the
PR
maker?
Yeah, to the PR companies and stuff. And then I'd take over email, but I was so bad at email, and I was always on the app that I would just send the stuff and basically sign things over. Like obviously you have to then do a proper, DocuSign stuff, but I'd be like, here's the quote, or here's the scope of work document, and I'd just put it there because I'd just be chatting to them on there.
And that would be like a pitch for the work that you wanted to do? Or more
so I'd have a call with them. So they would DM me, be like, hey, the San Miguel ones, actually no, what's the best one? Like Herbal Essence is a very good one. Someone DM'd me who knew me and was like, hey, I know this person and I think you're the right person for this. I was like, hey, do you mind just sending me a brief on here? They were like, yep, cool. And I was like, awesome. Let's have a quick call. What's your mobile number? Gave them a quick call, had that conversation. And I was like, look, before we go further into the pre-production calls and the prep calls, this was quite a last-minute project. This was to help launch the South America influence campaign, which they shot in Kew Gardens. So we shot all of this in like 2018, 2019. And we had all the conversation, had the call with them, went back to Instagram DMs, like, here's the scope of work written out. Once we're all confirmed, we'll put this into email. But I was basically doing a deal in Instagram DM.
Awesome.
Which was like a terrible idea, by the way, because it's so hard to keep track of. But like, there's a brand that I'm involved with at the moment, which is a Prosecco business, which was an old client, and then I kind of entered into the business. We do most of our business development in Instagram DMs. We just do it like our sales managers just always talking to people in Instagram DM because like it works. But there's no cold outreach, I would say, to that. We're not like cold outreaching people in Instagram DM. We're often if people are coming to us to inbound, we're talking to them via that. And Instagram now has that kind of lead marking feature that you can kind of mark everything through, and they want to make it more like that, I think. But yeah, so that's how we did like huge brands, like deals through that really. I think you asked me like what our customer acquisition strategy looks like. I mean, to be honest, like it's been here, there, and everywhere. We do believe in omni-channel. Like I would say that. So like I think that if you send loads of cold emails, which we do, they come back to you because they look into your socials, they look into me, they look into the site, they look into all these variables. So we don't have like a cold hard method of what we do. It's very much like be in the environment. The strongest thing for us has been in-person events, which is another thing we do in real life, and that has been the biggest converter for us and always will be.
It's kind of like us as well.
Yeah, it's either us hosting the events or us going to the events and being there and meeting people and having a conversation. I just think that like it's the best.
I think if you just come full circle to what we were saying earlier about saturation and more people being around, it's not, and you guys are incredibly talented. What you do, your senior content is fantastic. You deliver exceptional service, there's absolutely no doubt. But you're not the only creative agency in the world.
Nope.
And there are many other creative agencies out there. And I think in so many cases, it's about who the person individually knows, and it's far less about what the agency does and what their prices and so on. And that in-person events for us have just been such a massive add. We want at least once a quarter we'll try to attend some kind of in-person event, and we've now started doing that and really sending our team off to them as well. We love the mastermind model, so the model of, and everyone's vetted and so they're there. And so even just from a training standpoint, we're taking our senior leadership and sending them to events as well.
Yeah.
It's just been such a great model.
Yeah, we kind of go to, obviously what we try and look at is where people are spending their time. So like most people in marketing in London go to Soho House. So our team goes to Soho House events.
Interesting.
In the automotive side, we're always at Goodwood. We're always at the Revivals. We're always at, trying to go to those places. What we do generally on the bigger like conference event stuff. So like I guess like the Olympia in London often is doing like Fashion Week, F&B week, lunch festival, the HexClad, etc. If we're going to those, we are focused on actually going there to meet people. So we will say, hey, we're going to be down here. Are you around for a quick coffee, or we'd love to kind of catch up, or we do go for that reason. We don't just go to people's stands and like say, hey, you need marketing services. Like we're not doing that, because also we used to do that, but what we realized is like if you're going to events, you've got to understand why people are there, and often on those conference events they're not there to be sold to, they're there to sell. So it's just a different mindset that they're in for that day. So you're just gonna piss them off. But we go to events, like a couple of us are going monthly to different things all the time.
Wow, cool. Do you ever get stands?
No, and we also don't believe in that kind of agency speed dating model. I'm not gonna call them out here, but there are two agency speed dating models which I know are literally scamming people. And I actually think that agency speed model is a complete scam. Like complete scam. I don't. That's my experience and lived in. But this idea of paying for a 15-minute, get in front of someone for 15 minutes and pay for 9 meetings for the day and get charged $3,000. I'm in a very fortunate position where our agency can afford to take that risk. And I know there is other agencies that have taken that risk and they've got nothing from it. And that $3,000 is their marketing budget for the quarter. And you've just completely ripped it from them. And you put them in front of Bacardi, but actually the Bacardi was the paid media manager who can't even make a decision. Yeah. Like we've done a few of them and we've tested them since COVID. And there are two of them out there that are really taking the piss. And I think that, again, I'll call it how I see it. Like, it just shouldn't be allowed. It's a terrible model. I don't know if you've ever done one of them, but
no.
Just to explain what it is then for those that don't know, these are the kind of models where there'll be an events company setting this up. They tend to do them quarterly or monthly. They will go out to brands and say, hey, brands, whoever you are, or businesses, come into this day where you're going to sit in a room whether it's a hotel room, a stadium room, whatever. And in that room, we're going to get different agencies to come in and see you. Brand, you come for free. We'll put some food on for you and, hospitality and all that kind of stuff. You sit there. And then agencies will charge you roughly between £200 to £400 per meeting, where you go in and for 15 minutes, you basically pitch your agency to that individual.
Right.
The vet, and this is really, like, particularly in London, I know in Manchester, this is massive as well at the moment. And so what these events companies are saying to agencies are, hey, we've got vetted people who are you can get in front of, I don't know, Heineken, like, as an example. Yeah. You can get in front of Heineken today, and you just pay £300 to meet them.
Yeah.
What happens is the people from the brand side they're actually getting are just like the most they've just worked. Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
They're not even that. They're like, we sat in one and literally was a social media exec,
right,
who has no control of which agency, I'm not saying the brand would be using. And I think it's like a pretty disgusting model, because they are putting, and I've been at a couple of them now, and I can see all of the agency crib sheets when you walk in the door, and there's big agencies there. We're there, not a big agency, but we're there. And then I can see like the two-man agencies that have been promised to meet this brand and have some form of connect with them, and they get nothing from it. And that's the kind of business development stuff outside of like what you do internally, which I think is a complete scam. Yeah. Same with like a lot of these people that are promising, we'll do your cold outreach for you. I fucking hate those companies. Yeah. And like, I do know one or two that are quite good, and I respect them. But across the board, that is the kind of agency to agency relationship, which I just think people should be really, really careful about using. And I'm not trying to call anyone out at this point or whatever, but like, some of those people are like, we've got a cleaned list from, you're using Apollo and you're good at writing emails. Cool. Offer me that, but don't charge me $5,000 for it. Charge me your copywriting hours as a consultant, as I said at the very start, and give me some great value, and let's work together for the long term. Don't just try and scam me. It's that sort of stuff that like in the agency world, I hate it.
I completely agree with you, and any of those, and I'm completely behind you on absolutely all of that, and it's definitely with the cold outreach as well, with agencies that their core offer is helping other agencies grow. Because if your agency was so good at helping other agencies grow, you'd just grow your own, and it would be incredible, and you wouldn't need to do that. Actually, funny enough, it was about 2 years ago, I tested with a core group of agencies that were in our mentorship, and we were like, oh, let's see if we can run their email, because it was working so well for us. We did it for free.
Yeah.
And we just did it for a small group, and it went terribly. Like, just wasn't the same. We couldn't replicate our results, and it was because of all these other variables. It was the omnipresence, it was the reputation, it was the brand, and so on. 100%. And so it just like, and I knew at that moment in time, the only reason I tried it is because I knew other businesses that were doing really well from that offer. They were selling agencies and doing this email, and then it just opened my eyes to just how much nonsense there must be going on. It must be completely whitewashed.
And I like, I've been a bad agency. Like I've had a bad service, and we've been in that place. I get it, and I don't think, I'd like to think, looking at the good side of the world, that like some of these agencies that are offering an agency services want to be good, and they're just not quite yet. Fair enough, but there is a lot of them that are just completely ripping people off, because they also know that like some agencies are really fucking profitable, so they've got cash to spend. But what I hate is preying on my little guys and over promising something. It's like, when I first started, I probably overpromised a lot. I definitely would have done. I would have overpromised a lot and said, we're going to do this for you, and we're going to charge you this. And I probably overcharged them and underdelivered. I know that. But I'm now trying to be better. And I think that's what's important. Whereas I feel, and this is maybe me being really like brutal on it, there are people in these kind of like external cold outreach things, or these event agencies, or these kind of like, there's loads of them, like the cold calling ones, etc. Who are just preying on agencies who have made a bit of cash, and they're going to charge them 3 to 5K, and they're just going to rinse them for it. And they're not going to set any boundaries or kind of barriers. I mean, one of the events companies that we used that we were really dissatisfied with took us to court.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Because we're not happy with the service, not happy with the bill, except I'm not going to say they are, because I just can't be dealing with the headache. But like, that's like, and I've spoken to numerous other agencies that I know have used them, and everyone's getting the same experience. It's not us because we didn't show up on that speed dating thing. It's because you're not delivering a good product. Like the scamming in business, it's like road traders, isn't it? It does happen. I believe that we're good-hearted, and I think you are too, and we're trying to deliver good service, and we're going to make mistakes, and I sit here today knowing all the mistakes we've made in our service. We'll make a lot more in the future, unfortunately. It's just how this works. We want to try and mitigate them, whatever, but being morally correct in this service business world, I think is really important. And, I think anyone listening to this, if you're in a place where you think your agency is maybe not delivering the best product, evaluate what you're charging. Make sure you give value. You're going to be in the game longer if you can correlate where you are in your agency career, where your agency is in its career, and what you charge, and how that correlates to those brands, local businesses that you're doing, because that's the long term. Yeah. If you want to be short term and make a load of money, overcharge, underdeliver, piss people off, take people's money, and fine. Don't do that ideally, but fine. But think about your reputation. It's so important. That's where, going back to HexClad, my reputation's got me HexClad.
Yeah.
Just by being around and trying really hard to be in that room and deliver great products.
Something that's been earned over a long period of time.
Yeah, 100%.
I think many people, and certainly even just looking at the outreach thing, I think many people think that if there's an issue in the agency, they can just band-aid it by paying someone for a solution, and it just comes over a long period of time. And so even just taking those lessons from, okay, we worked with these agencies trying to do this email outreach service for them. Off the back of that, the lessons on how we can actually educate them to be really great at it, and then learning good copywriting, learning good A/B testing, and so on. And 12, 24 months afterwards, these guys were all smashing it, and that's awesome. And we've worked with 4,500 agencies now over the years, majority of them smaller agencies, of course, and so we've worked with a significant number. And through all of those years, I just thoroughly am against complete done-for-you services when it comes to delivering. And I think that's the reason for that is because people have to learn the process of iteration and testing themselves, and actually have to learn how to be a good marketer and a good salesperson within themselves. And if they can't do it for themselves, they're not going to be able to do it for their clients.
When you say, because I know done for you is getting even more intense now, right?
Yeah.
Done for you really means like you're offering a done for you cold email outreach service. That often means appointment setup all the way through. It's email always right, the whole thing.
But it's valueless. It doesn't.
Because done for you literally used to mean we were just sending emails and you guys pick it up. Whereas now people are trying to get more and more into the back end.
It's the entire thing, and they are just creating themselves insane headaches. And I would rather all day long teach them how to build a system and outright refuse to run that system for them, because it doesn't. Because what you become is a fractional department in the company. They're not building any intellectual property. They're not building any knowledge, and so you leave, and they're just right back to where they started, and it's an absolute nightmare. So
absolutely.
So you've been in this industry now for 10 years.
Yeah.
Where do you think this industry is going to be in another 10?
It's a good question. I think that there will be less agencies in it. I think that the quality will really come through. I think in a couple of years, because I think that if you don't have a quality in your organization, I think that it's really hard to run. It's not about being out competed on. It's just it's a headache if you're not focused on the quality of the service. I think the AI conversation is interesting. We're using it in a couple of different ways to find efficiencies at the moment. So we're using it in the creative side to find some efficiencies in little things we can now edit in Photoshop a 3-hour edit takes an hour because the AI can help. We're not making AI imagery. I actually don't think that's going to work. So AI generated content in advertising, I think, is not what people want right now. People want authenticity and human connection. So I do think that AI is not going to take over videographers' lives, photographers' lives just yet. I think the graphic side could be interesting. I do think it will take the SEO world by storm quite quickly. I think it already has done that. So from that perspective, I also think AI for data is really, really interesting. So a way we're using AI to pull data and build models out and that kind of stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
For the ideation side for AI is great as well, which I think is really, really exciting. So, but it's all efficiencies. When I first started 10 years ago, I had less efficiencies than I have now. So it's just not gonna evolve. But I think AI won't reduce the workforce within the agency world massively. I do think we'll see a reduction. But I actually think what it'll do is we'll move people into different parts of what they're doing in an agency. So if you are an SEO copywriter now, I think you'll move more into how you can build creative modeling into that copywriting. That makes sense. So I think that'll be interesting. I think that agencies will become more relied upon from brands, because I think that brands will start to look at how they are employing workforces and people and what that kind of structure looks like. The space is set to grow, but then every space is set to grow. For the last thing, because of the UK, we're very optimistic. I I do think it will evolve, but I think the biggest thing is that creative and performance will blend harder than it ever has.
I completely agree with that stance.
That's my last statement.
I think there's a couple of things to unpack there. I mean, first of all, yes, and AI just is just. I mean, I literally press Command and Space on my Mac now, and I open up AI console with multiple different chatbots, and it's awesome. And so we use AI for so much. I agree with you from the perspective of imagery. I think it's going to be challenging, but the efficiency is going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think it's possible that meta and performance may be completely automated, and I think that the industry will lean further and further into creative, which puts you at a serious advantage. But volume of creative, potentially, because I'm sure you're saying the same. I don't know whether actually it'd be interesting to know for luxury brands, but we're kind of working with mid-level direct-to-consumer, anything from 100k monthly revenue to 5 million, and it's that. It's the volume of creative and variety of creative inside the ad account, just campaign budget optimization, pretty broad. It's just working the absolute best for us. And I think we're going to get more and more and more closer to that as Meta becomes more AI integrated and so on.
I mean, like it's a little bit similar, but a little bit different. And this isn't necessarily just for luxury. It's just the way we see it. So AI is about input, not just output. Right, so it's what you put into it versus what comes out. And for example, on Advantage Plus, from a meta perspective, we are starting to see more traditional ad structures outperform Advantage Plus because the input is better than the input that maybe you have, and the way that obviously tracking attribution is changed. If you don't have a strong third-party attribution model for Facebook with your kind of back end using State.io or whatever it might be, your Advantage Plus won't perform as well. So like Advantage Plus was actually brought out for local and small businesses to run ads better, so that Meta could increase their revenues. Zuck could increase his revenues because they were down for 21, 22. Whenever all the bigger brands were pulling out, they brought in Advantage Plus so that smaller businesses could press a few buttons, run some ads. That's why it exists. And now it's evolved to machine learning and etc. On the so that bit is for us like, yes, I think that's going to evolve and become stronger. But I think it's all going to be about input. And I think that if the privacy laws, particularly in the UK, we also, by the way, run ads internationally. I think you guys do too, right? So like it is a bit different from like the States. It's great, actually. But like in the UK, it's a bit different. But in terms of like where the creative comes in, what we're really trying to do is get our team to have a better first initial shot than what they would by just putting a lot more in. So instead of us uploading 10 creatives into campaigns, what we're trying to do is build performance funnels, and the creative is different at every form of the funnel, very different, and there's different messaging that resonates to what's been visually shown. But from the learnings from all of our accounts, what we're trying to do is take all that information to build better creative to start with, and then use AI to look at how you can test it more. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Whereas I think what some agencies are doing is like not going in with any informed decision and going, right, it needs subtitles and a big CTA or whatever it is, and then making loads of variations of that. So we're trying to get more data-led and psychology-led earlier on in the journey, so that when we're using AI to take us from like 90% optimization to like 95 or whatever it might be. But going slightly back to your question around like what's going to change, I do think that the need for strong tracking and attribution is going to get worse. So like I think that's definitely coming. We put a lot of time and energy into it. There are some other platforms that are putting a lot of time and energy into it, which is great, but that is something that I can see the need for first party data is getting stronger and stronger, particularly within kind of social advertising. So we're really trying to put a lot into that. But we just believe in very traditional advertising in many ways. I think you do too, but like some agencies are trying maybe to overcomplicate it, but it's like creative with the right messaging to the right people with the right product works. Like it doesn't need to be much more than that. Like that is what advertising is. And I think where we definitely went wrong at one point is like, oh, this creative works on Facebook because everyone else says it works. Let's make that, and let's make the messaging just really salesy and aggressive, and then the product was like, it's just different. And I think that in premium and luxury brand, it's very different from that. You've got to build much more of a performance funnel. You've really got to sort of think about that journey and that consumer behavior, and also the psychology. Like, I'll be honest, I think there are a lot of agencies that are pretty bad at performance creative.
Yeah.
Like, they're pretty shit. They're pretty rubbish.
What do you think your source is when it comes to creating content that not just retains but converts?
It's definitely making ads not look like ads. That's the number one thing at the moment. So making content that actually looks like content and gives value in the ad, not just in what they can gain from the offer or what. I mean, we don't really do much offer stuff, I'll be honest with you, because we just pretty rare the luxury tend not to do that. But on the offer stuff we do have done, whether it be Black Friday times or seasonal sales or anything like that, like it's still it can't look like an ad anymore. And that's what's changed.
How do you pull that off?
Well, making it look like something that they would have found in their For You page.
Yeah.
So the For You page is where most people spend their time. The For You page is like discoverability is what they want in social.
Yeah.
All platforms are focused on retention on platform. So TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and let's say Meta, their number one goal is to keep you on the app for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Retention is the number one thing. I'm talking to the converted here, so sorry, but that's the number one thing. So for us on the For You page, people spend the most amount of time on that page. The whole doom scrolling thing comes from the For You page and that kind of idea and that kind of dopamine hit that we're all searching for.
Yeah.
If we can make an ad look like it's just appeared on that For You page for that audience, it will convert because people will want to know more about it. It's like why you get served something in the For You page and then you go to the profile to see what it is because you look for more content. Use that same method, but for an ad, for advertising for the brand. They see something, it fits them because it's in their For You page. That's where you can really hack the algorithm, quote unquote. And then that ad actually will sell better than putting a big Americanized or European looking ad that's like, buy this today. Just doesn't work. Like, I remember what it used to. I remember when we used to post on Instagram, like actual ads and they would convert. It was great.
Yeah, it was wild. Direct response straight to it. Yeah.
Like 2014, I remember running ads for a clothing brand and we would just post on Instagram and see sales come into their Magento 1 site back in the day. So it was great. Fucking awesome. But yeah, all the platforms are changing. Like TikTok has changed the world of social. Like it's all interest based, which is great. Followers do not matter. It's all about your content, which is where we think we will win as a business because it's all about the creative you make. That's why Facebook died out because they didn't have a discover feature. That's from what we believe. Like the reason why you use Facebook much, probably like
as a personal platform.
Yeah.
Not
as much as the other ones.
No, we repurpose content for my personal brand there, and that's right.
And that's it. But like the reason why the user time on that has gone down is because they don't have a discover feature.
Yeah.
Because it's the archaic way of a feed. So you're going through a feed of people you're connected with, and because no one changed that friends, kind of like you would add friends and see their content, and there's no discoverability. It has changed now, I'll be honest. Like you do get served more randomized stuff. But look at what Twitter have done, or X. Look at what TikTok did. Look at the way Instagram's changed. Reddit is super discoverable. Like it's all about discoverability. People want newness, and that's where you've got to try and incorporate the brand into that. If they want newness, the platforms will know. They know what they're looking for. That's why a For You page is so accurate. If I like watches, I've always been a collector of watches ever since I was a kid. I'll get served a lot of watch content because that's the content I spend time on. So a watch brand can target me because the algorithm knows. The algorithm again, it's not a black box. Like it's just knowing the data about your IP address or your profile. Sorry, they know that I'm into watches, so they can serve me watch ads, and I'll likely convert them.
Yeah,
it's just simple. Like, it's not Facebook and Meta and all these ad things that agencies try and make sound really complicated. It's not that complicated. You can read the whole developer stack for Facebook on Facebook.com. That you can understand how it works. And all they're doing is figuring out where you're retaining your time because that's what they want. They want you to stay on the app. So if I look at a load of photos of dogs, they will serve me more photos of dogs. That's it. It's nothing more than that. So like, and I can see that in your content. You can see people like it because your attention's so good. Like that's why that's how platforms are working.
Keep them on platform. Don't take them off. Yeah,
and try and get their email address.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing.
Yeah, address. All right.
Yeah,
man. Ollie, this has been awesome, man. And as much as I would love to truly sit here for another hour talking about service and content and really unpacking that, I realised very foolishly I booked this studio and the time is coming up in about 2 minutes.
So good.
So what we're going to have to do is tease the people, and you're going to have to come back at some point, and we can really get granular into service, and we can dig that out. But what have you got going on at the moment? Is anything exciting happening that you want to share? Obviously the podcast, and of course.
Yeah, I mean the podcast is super exciting. We're really trying to build something with purpose and not just it's not a lead gen source for me, by the way, at all. Like it's literally, I mean, there have been some good opportunities come for it, but like it's completely selfish trying to build a podcast that I would have wanted to listen to 10 years ago type situation. We have got a lot of episodes we haven't released, which are really, really exciting. And we started off in brands, and some of the content on there already, like, I'm super proud of it. Some of the people I've met, from Josh from Can of Water to Andy from This Isn't, to, an episode that's coming out this weekend with a guy called Kim, who's the best photographer in F1 at the moment. So, like, there's some really cool stuff with that. And on the agency side, I mean, we're just really focused on, like, our delivery. We are working on some really exciting products. We're about to do a massive launch for a drinks brand coming this summer, a new nootropic energy brand, which has got some backing from incredible individuals and an amazing team around it. And yeah, we're just kind of another year for us, like, trying to grow, trying to build a great team, trying to let our team currently grow and look after them, and yeah, be here for another 10 years. And obviously there's, like, we just know there's challenges ahead. It's a weird environment at the moment. Like, you've had a rough economy for a couple of years. Even in the luxury world, it has been impacted in some capacities, but try and enjoy the ride is the number one thing. So yeah, but thanks very much for having me on.
Awesome. That's
been a pleasure.
It has been great.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much.